Well, Steve Gosling from Axminster is with me now. Steve, this is possibly one of the rarest and oldest vehicles on today's run, isn't it?
That's correct, yes. It's built in 1917. It's an autocar truck built for the British Army. It's one of 460 that they purchased and were imported, and it's believed to have worked on the Western Front.
And where was this vehicle actually built in the first place?
It was built in Ardmore, Pennsylvania.
And you say that it's got a British Army connection. What sort of manoeuvres was it actually involved in, do you think?
That's very difficult to predict, in fact. It could have been involved at the Battle of Cambrai. Because it was built in 1917, that was the most likely time. And I've certainly seen photographs of them at that battle and in that period.
Now, the vehicle itself is certainly in a very excellent condition here today. What sort of work have you actually been involved in restoring it?
Well, I've done nearly everything to it. When we had it, it had been thoroughly worn out. Every possible thing that could wear out was worn. And as very fortunate, have a lathe and a milling machine, and I've been able to make all the replacement parts I've required for it. It's got I made new pistons for it. I made patterns, and we took them to the foundry, and they cast them for me. They were very interested to see what it was. New kingpins, all new brake lining. I've gone through the gearbox, new bearings everywhere, and of course a whole new body.
And the model that we see today, I mean, how long has it actually taken you to restore it to the condition that we see it in?
It's been a 3-year project. Yes. I've had a lot of help from my friends, though, and would you believe the Taunton Model Engineering Society? A lot of people with skills in various directions, and have given their time freely, and without them I couldn't possibly have done it.
Now, Steve, after World War I, the autocar itself was involved in a French connection, wasn't it?
That's right. But after the war, about 60,000 lorries were sold off in France, and this one was purchased by a coal merchant called Fernand Charlet at Cambrai, and he ran it for many, many years. He really worked it very, very hard. When we got it, it was still covered in coal dust, all stuck together and with oil and grease, and it had his nameplate on as well, just to prove it.
And how did it actually find its way back to the UK?
Well, after he finished with it, he sold it to a collector in France. He collected anything, and he stored it and never did anything with it. He died, unfortunately, in the 80s, and his whole collection was sold off, and Sotheby's imported it into this country. Now, funnily, nobody seemed to want it. It was put up for auction, just didn't sell. In the end, a dealer got hold of it. He put it up for sale, and it was advertised for quite a few months before we sort of said, well, let's go and have a look. Of course, once I went and had a look, that was the end. We had to have it.
And the rest is history.
Well, that's right, yes. We got here today, and we've had a lovely time.
Mark Lefevre is with me now from Winchcombe in Gloucestershire. Mark, we're actually standing in front of a Dodge 3 1/4 4x4. I know very little about it. Perhaps you could tell us more.
Yes, she was built in 1943. She saw service with the US forces in Europe. This particular one went to Italy and done all of her military life in Italy until early part of 1947, when it was shipped across to this country and used down in Bristol for about 3 months, ferrying the troops from French aid down to the docks. It was then retired and was used by Richard Neal and Sons in Derby as a light removal van. She was painted bright yellow in their colours. It's still visible in some places. Then it went to W. Gregg Limited, again in Derby. It was used as a light removal van for them. Then it was put back into US Army colours of olive drab, and then retired into private use. And then she was lost. I've lost all trace of it from there on. And I found her in a farmer's field in a terrible state, unfortunately. And I've restored her over a year back to as she is now, tracing her original US registration number that was given to her in 1943.
Perhaps you could tell us a little more about the technical aspect of it.
Yeah, it's got a 6-cylinder side valve water-cooled engine, developing 93 brake horsepower, 2 or 4-wheel drive, extra lever that you pull back to engage transmission on the front axle, and does very well off-road.
I was going to ask you actually, how economical is it to run these days?
She'll do about 10 miles to a gallon, about 7 miles off-road per gallon. She's got a 30-gallon petrol tank, plus 2 5-gallon spares, one on either side.
Tell me, Mark, has the actual ambulance itself been involved in any film work at all?
I'm still trying to find out a little bit of history, see if I can find that out. I got a feeling she was used in the Memphis Belle.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much for talking to us.
It's very much pleasure.
Well, the crowds are certainly enjoying themselves here at Singleton Park. They're milling around behind me, and from milling to military, I'm joined now by a representative of the Army, the Parachute Regiment, in fact. Tell me, sir, are you enjoying the show so far? Well, he's obviously not going to tell me much about that, so I'll tell you who we will call in. We'll call in Alan Dark, who's here today representing the Military Vehicles Conservation Group. Alan, welcome to Singleton Park.
Thank you very much.
I believe you're the owner of this this motorcycle here. What's the history behind it?
This is a Royal Enfield Flying Flea. It was made in 1941. It was used by the British paratroopers. They were dropped by parachute and in a container, but most of them were put into a Horska glider, and when the glider stopped, the troops would get the bikes out and off to go to the front.
And this is actually a World War II
That's it.
machine?
It is an actual World War II one.
To the left of us here, Alan, we've got, it looks like a Jeep, but I don't think it's a Jeep, covered in a sandy coloured paint. What's the background behind that?
That's a German Kugelwagen. They were used basically for the Germans. They're the equivalent to the British and American Jeep.
Yeah.
They also did another version which was an amphibious, about the same size looking, basically same chassis, but just they were amphibious.
Yeah.
Used mostly, as I said, in Europe, but as you see, that one's done up in desert colours.
Tell me, Alan, have any film companies or TV companies been in touch with your group to use these for films and television series?
I haven't actually used any of my bikes, but I had a German bike and sidecar, good few years ago. That was approached by BBC to use it in their films.
Yeah.
There are members of the club which do use it. Actually, if a lot of boys up in England, they get more contact than we do because we're so far down. Yes, a lot of the vehicles do get used in films. Actually, today there's a big auction on today. A bloke called Charlie Mann used to have a museum which is all being sold off, and it's actually on today. And all his films, all the things he got there were used in films as far as Indiana Jones,
Was it?
Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Bridge Too Far.
Yeah.
Actually, the club we own, a lot of the vehicles for the Bridge Too Far film belong to privately owned club.
Right. Now here's an interesting question, one that we haven't asked at all today since we've been here. What sort of insurance costs would be involved in insuring, say, that Jeep or this bike?
Well, actually, the insurance is quite cheap. It's a lot cheaper than a privately owned vehicle. The Harley here, for a third-party cover, only costs £30 a year, which can be used all year, but they know we're only going to use it for about a month of the 12 months.
So that's quite reasonable then. Alan, I believe I'm right in saying that your members are quite spread far and wide, as far as Australia.
That's it, they're everywhere. The clubs are very far. Every club has got its individual setting, like this is a South Wales branch, then you got Birmingham, Cheltenham.
Yeah.
You go everywhere. And we even got France, Belgium, Germany, Holland, down as far as Australia and New Zealand.
So quite far and wide then.
Oh, it's a very big club. About 10,000 members, I reckon.
Alan, thanks for talking to us.
Okay.
Thanks for sparing the time. Enjoy the rest of your day here at Singleton,
Thank you
and
very much.
good luck for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. In the army now here at Wantage. That's a very interesting military vehicle. I can't. Oh, this is the man I want to speak to at the front. Hello. Can you spare us a few minutes?
We can, sir, yes.
Right. What's the story? What's the background behind this particular vehicle?
Right, it's a 1953 Daimler Ferret. Done 38 years in the army. It come out at the Gulf War, 1901. Don't know why they sent a 38-year-old vehicle out of the Gulf War, but it finished its life back there, where it had major problems with torque converter, wiring, and the drive assembly on the transmission. And then it was sent back to UK and scrapped. I got it off a vehicle breakers up in Chelmsford, and virtually it was just a show. It was just about to be cut up so that they could take the wheels off it. And I salvaged it because it was one of the first ones that was made. There's lots of these. There was 6,000 of these made between 1953 and 1978, and this is chassis number 247. And the first 100 really wasn't issued. It was just used experimental.
Would this particular vehicle have been stationed in any particular parts of the Europe or the UK at a barracks?
Yeah, well, in its life, it's spent time in 3 years out in Aden. It's been out to Northern Ireland from 74 to 77. It was in Northern Ireland with various recce troops out there. It's also been in North Africa, Germany, and then of course it's been out to Saudi Arabia.
I also see that you've got the uniform on there with the cap badge. Is that any significance, the badge itself?
Yeah, well, I've restored the vehicle as a 1420 King's Hussars command vehicle. You see by the insignias on the front that I've got the Armoured Corps and the 1420th sign, and also the Cyrenaica sign on the left-hand side. I looked after a squadron of these out in Libya from 1962 to 1965. A Remy attached. I'm not wearing a 1420 badge, I'm wearing a Remy badge, and it was our job to look after these out in Libya. And I looked after a squadron of these, which was 23 Mark IIs and just the one Mark I. And this is the one I've restored it actually to the Mark I command vehicle.
Okay, thanks for the history there. Let's actually hear the engine, shall we? Would you be able to start it up? Let's get a little bit of. What are you actually doing here today?
We're actually members of the Military Vehicle Trust, and we're also members of the HCVCS as well, so we've just brought our trucks along.
And is this your first run or second?
This is about our 6th or 7th, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, we've been quite regulars on this for some time. We're from Newbury, so when we get back to the wharf, we're on home ground.
Right. How have you actually found them in the past? Have they been well organised?
Yeah, they've been very well organised. Cups of tea and everything for us, so we're all right.
Well, that's the main thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
What about this gentleman over here? What
He's the owner.
this is this? What can you what can you actually tell us about these vehicles?
Well, we've rebuilt this one over the last year. It was bought from California. It's a Dodge, an American vehicle. Like I say, we've pulled it right down to the bare chassis and rebuilt it up again in the last year. The two Jeeps, we've had them on the road for the last 4 or 5 years. One of them has done this run 3 or 4 times now. The others are, is their first time out on this run.
One thing I must actually ask you, the cost of fuel these days isn't cheap.
Yeah.
What's it like running one of these types of vehicles?
Well, like you say, the petrol, because they're all on petrol, it isn't cheap. I mean, you just have to sort of grin and bear that and save up and for each run, basically. I got £30 worth of petrol for these three to do this run today. So, I mean, you do that sort of 2 or 3 times, well, you know, in quick succession, you're very soon out of money.
How have you actually found the journey so far from...
Very good, yeah, we're very, you know, pleased. Oh yeah, with no problems. These tend to go a bit better than some of the older vehicles, so we get the pleasure of passing 1 or 2, which is quite rare for us because, I mean, we are a bit steady, but like I say, we get the pleasure of passing a few vehicles for a change.
Well, we hope you enjoy the rest of the run,
thanks,
and we'll no doubt see you in Newbury.
Yeah, we hope to make it. Yeah, like you just said, we're on our home ground there, so when we get to Newbury, we're basically home anyway. Yeah.
The military vehicles have packed away their refreshments and are now heading out onto the open road towards Newbury.
Good news for most people here today, and that is that in celebration of a sunny Monday and it being bank holiday, the beer tents are leaning over backwards to make your day an enjoyable time here at the Crystal Palace. Apart from putting out some very posh tables and chairs outside.
Well, we're in the army now here at Crystal Palace, and there's a fine collection of military vehicles here. Mike Hatch is with me. Mike, what's the background to your particular group?
Well, it's just really a group of friends we got together over the years. Instructors, we're all instructors with the cadet forces, and our interest in military vehicles really started when we got the Bedford, which we use for carrying the cadets around to various exercise areas that we use at weekends and things. And we started displaying that at various shows, and as I say, like Topsy, it grew from there. We got hold of 2 Ferret armoured cars, one here, the Mark 1 and the Mark 2-3, which unfortunately couldn't be with us this weekend. And then we got the Stalwart, which is behind us here, which is the amphibious vehicle. And now we're regularly on the show scene and appearing at the shows up and down, well, in the sort of London South East area.
I was going to ask you actually, how far do you travel with these?
Well, we try to keep it down to about 1.5 hours, 2 hours travelling distance maximum. Really, the Bedford's not too bad on fuel, but when it gets to the Stalwart, when it's down to 4 miles to the gallon, it tends to get a bit prohibitive on the travelling costs. So and as it's all out of our own pocket, as it were, understanding wife and understanding bank manager.
Now, this particular vehicle that we're standing in front of, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's Ferret Mark 1, which is a battlefield liaison vehicle used, it was used to go between the battle groups, various regiments of tanks, squadrons of tanks when they're out in the battlefield, to obviously pass messages, carry messages, be it by either radio or the usual scrap of paper to passing on. High-speed vehicle, very good cross-country performance to keep connection with the tanks.
Would it have carried any particular armaments as such?
Yeah, it's usually armed with, for some degree of self-protection, with either a 7.62 general-purpose machine gun or a 7.62 light machine gun, as well as the crew's own sidearms themselves.
Now, it's in marvellous condition here today. Has it always been this way?
Well, when we got it just over a year ago, it had been in open storage after coming out of the army 2 years previously. Been left in open storage in a field and was, filled with water. It was like a swimming pool inside, and everything was rusted, sea solid. So there was a lot of work had to go into it to, get it up into the condition it's today. And of course, none of the bits and pieces came with it. So we had to track down radios, had to track down all the bits and pieces inside, and a labour of love really. But we got there in the end.
What would have been the year of manufacture of this particular vehicle?
Yeah, it's 1955-56 thereabouts. We're still trying to establish the exact age of it, but it's roughly about then.
With all these vehicles on display, Mike, have any actually appeared in any films or TV series?
Well, I can't say for anyone else in the rest of the crew, but rest of the lineup here. But out of our 3 vehicles, as far as we know, there's none of them have appeared. But again, as with everything, we're always open to offer.
Well, we hope that's very much the case. Mike Hatch, thanks for talking to us.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right then, Nigel, well, I'm familiar with Commer lorries, and I know this is the great old Commer petrol engine too, this would be.
Yeah,
very
right.
low mileage. They built some lovely lorries. I've driven them as tippers, but this is certainly something different, and I understand this is called a bikini outfit or something. So
yeah, that's right.
Tell us all about it.
Well, the vehicle was actually built in 1954, and it's registered in October 1955. It's a transportable water unit. Its nickname was, of course, the bikini unit. It carried 3 inflatable rafts, which were made by the RFD, and 9 Coventry Climax Godiva pumps. One pump actually propelled the raft along, and the 2 other pumps actually drew up water through the bottom by special suction inlets, which drew up through the bottom of the raft, which enabled you to pump water from land, onto land, like from say lakes or quarries or things like that, or it would have been used in case of another nuclear war or a major fire strike. They could relay a complete water system.
Because these were AFS vehicles.
Yes, these were AFS, which was disbanded in 1968. This would have been run between 1958 and 1968.
These were close relations of the Green Goddesses, weren't they?
Yeah, they used to run. They actually used to run in line with them.
Yeah. Now, tell me. This is a vehicle produced in
1954.
And what was the mileage on it when you bought it?
When I actually bought it, it had about 1,500.
I know, a lot of these went as great bargains, and not a very high mileage now. So you had a good rundown, a nice smooth rundown.
Yep.
Well done.
5 years.
Well done. Long may she live.
Cheers.
Well, we're down amongst the brown and green now with the military vehicles, and for the first time in my life I'm looking at a USA, which was one of the old Liberties, built by America with a Continental engine, built in 1917, and quite a few of them shipped over here for our forces over in France. Quite a primitive looking vehicle, but typical of that era. It's got what was another thing typical with American build was that huge dip on the back end there, and of course the solid tires. However, swinging around now to one of the most popular vehicles in World War II. It's the Austin K2 ambulance. Always affectionately known among the troops as KT, the abbreviation of K2. Austin's made this model based on their just pre-war lorry, their sort of 3-ton chassis, and what a fine job it was too. 6-cylinder overhead valve, 4-speed gearbox, just a 2-wheel drive. They used to get bogged down in the sand from time to time, but a reliable and a very pleasant vehicle to drive. Gearbox a little bit difficult, but sounded beautiful. And there's its slightly bigger brother over here on the left. That's the Austin K3. That would be the ordinary standard 4x2 3-tonner. You can see the similarity between the two. That one with the original lorry cab, but this with the K2 conversion. 2 nice old Austins from World War II. Well, hello, Richard.
Hello, Jerry.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
We're going to have a chat now to the president of the Military Vehicle Trust. And he's come along today with his Humber box,
That's
we would
right,
call
Jerry.
this. Yes, and you drove all the way down, obviously.
We did. We went from Wiltshire, up from Wiltshire yesterday to Bicester, and we went to the Royal Ordnance Depot at Bicester, which employed 17,000 people during the war. First ever open day yesterday. Down to Hyde Park last night, spent the night in London, and then set off this morning from Crystal Palace. Got lost a couple of times getting to Crystal Palace, but finally got here.
'Twas ever thus, Richard. How long have you had this Humber box?
I bought it in 1986.
Oh, I didn't realise you had one. I know
Well,
you're
it was body and axles, Jerry.
Yeah, you're a QL Bedford man as well, aren't you?
That's right, I'm a QL Bedford man, but this was body and axles up in Northumberland, owned by an accountant, and we bought it from him, and then I had to find an engine. I got the engine in Guernsey, I got the offside front door in Poland, I got the 2 windscreens in Accrington, I got the back door somewhere else down in Devon.
No, she's back original, you would say.
Back original. What we did after we'd restored her, the King of Romania organised a wonderful trip across the Swiss mountain passes.
I remember that.
Now, you remember me telling you about that when he fled from Romania. He came out through Switzerland in his wartime Jeep, and he decided he wanted to do all the Swiss mountain passes again, so we joined him with about 25 other pre-1945 vehicles in this. We drove all the way out to Switzerland, we did 17 mountain passes, and we then came all the way back through France again, and we did all that lot in 15 days.
Well, a little bit about these were based on the old Commer lorry engine, weren't they?
That's right.
The big Humber car engine it was then.
Right.
Four-wheel drive, it called the box because of their construction.
Absolutely.
Used as staff cars during the war, some of them used by the BBC afterwards for outside broadcast stuff. Very nice vehicle, and of course it's quite a doddle from London to Brighton today. Nothing
Absolutely.
in it. Nothing in it.
All the windows open, lovely fresh air.
Anyway, lovely to see you again,
Nice to
Richard,
see you.
and thanks for that story.
Delighted.
Much obliged to you. Well, we're looking now at a typical military 15 underweight vehicle, and this one I would say was the prettiest of all the 15 underweights, the Bedford MW. It's got the same engine as the 3-tonners and the 3-ton QLs, the 4x4s. That's the 28 horsepower Bedford engine. But look at the way this has been done up in the military police colouring. It's got the star on the top, but a lot of people say it's the American star, but it's not. It's the Allied Forces star on there. And well, this is a beautiful bit of preservation, and the military police badge on the front, and it's occupied today by Graham and Margaret, who are well and truly done up in the correct uniforms. Very smartly done. We got the airborne flashes, and it's your own vehicle, I take it?
It is, yeah.
Well done, and you are the good lady who loves to come along in sufferance.
She's my mentor.
So how long have you been involved? You're in the Military Vehicle Trust?
Yes, MVT and the Historic Vehicle Club of Great Britain.
Yeah.
And the Bletchley Park military group. I'm in there.
And how
military police do is at Bletchley Park.
Yeah, so you'll be quite busy this weekend and next weekend too.
I'm at Leighton Buzzard tomorrow.
And I understand you never were in the military police, but you were a special constable at one time.
26 years. Yeah.
And what have you got to be proud of in your lifetime? What have you served in, my dear?
I haven't served in anything.
Well, you've looked after this chap for a few years. That's worth a medal or two anyway. Anyway.
She did all the insignia on the vehicle.
All the painting?
Actually a cake maker. She makes wedding cakes and specialises in that.
Yeah, she's done all the painting on there. That really is nice. It's got the old, is that the original Z number on the door that you found? That is the original one, because if there was a 3-tonner they'd have had an L, the small ones had the M, and I think the motorbikes had the C, didn't they? It's very interesting. Yes, and it's got the yellow bridge plate down there on the front too. You made a good job of it, and this is what I love to see.
Trying their best, even to the calendar inside the cab. I don't know whether you've noticed that.
We haven't noticed that, but we'll have a peep at that later.
Calendar D-Day is out on the calendar inside the cab.
Very nice. It's nice to know that these are vehicles which were old soldiers, and they were just as glad to see the VE Day as we were.
History, we hope, aren't they?
Yeah, a bit of English heritage. Well, thank you very much, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
of the first vehicles to arrive today was this old wartime Yank, the white half-track. These particular half-track vehicles were produced by two firms, White and International. Very slight difference in the two. That is the shape of the mudguards and of course the engine. The White, we've also got some White Scout cars here that we should be looking at later. They had the same engine, that is the 6-cylinder side-valve Hercules engine. These vehicles were used by a lot of armoured divisions, and quite a lot came to the British Army as well. Quite a powerful, quite a quick vehicle, despite being half-track. Quick she must have been. First one to arrive after the run down from Purley today. Well, now we got the camera on one of the old favourites, the Jeep. That is a Willys Jeep. Willys and Ford made these Jeeps to identical pattern, and this particular one is done up in British marking. As of course we know the British had almost as many Jeeps as the Americans because we found great use in them. Useful little vehicle, 80-inch wheelbase, 4-wheel drive, 3-speed gearbox. Now you do see the American star, you might say, on the top of that one. Of course it was the Allied Porsche star we all carried for the project we had 50 years ago last year. That was D-Day. This one's carrying also the sign of the Desert Rat up here, which was the 7th Armoured Division. Now over here to yet another Yankee-built vehicle, the famous 2.5-ton Jimmy, the GMC, built by General Motors. This is the short wheelbase 6-wheeler, 6-wheel drive, 5-speed gearbox. Many thousands of these were produced for the American Army, but of course later on in 42-ish, I believe it was, they put the soft cab on them. But what a popular vehicle, and one we saw a hell of a lot of during the war years. Well, I'm standing here beside one of my favourite vehicles, that is the Daimler Dingo. This is possessed by Tom Mitchell here, who will be having a chat to you later, Tom. The Daimler Dingo was, in my mind, one of the most fantastic vehicles for its year. Designed before the war, and when the Mark I came out with a 4-wheel steering on it, it's got a Daimler overhead valve engine and a pre-select gearbox, as used to be on the old Daimler cars, with a fluid flywheel. And you just had all forward gears on your selector lever there. And then you merely pulled a lever and you had the same amount of gears in reverse. Lovely vehicle if you wanted to retreat. The Italians should have bought these. But it's well armed. It's well and done up with the 1st Infantry Division sign on here. Tom, how long have you owned this one?
15 years, I think now it must be. About, anyway.
And is this your old div sign?
Yes, it certainly is. Yes, I was in Egypt in 1951.
You got there after I'd left.
That's
then.
correct. That's correct. Yes, I had a glorious time. You might not have done, but I did.
That's perfectly true. But what made you buy the Dingo?
Well, I always liked the shape of them, and they are so advanced as a machine that I didn't think there was anything better to buy.
Perfectly true, and in fact Daimler set the pattern with armoured cars, and all the other countries followed that particular shape, didn't they, with them very well.
And the Ferret's running gear, apart from having the Rolls engine, is the same as this.
Similar. We shall see one of those later. Where are you from, Tom?
Hartfield in Sussex.
I know it, yes.
Yes, near Winnie the Pooh Bridge.
And you had a nice run down this morning.
I certainly did.
Most enjoyable.
Yes.
Is it 5 forwards on these? It's 5 forward gears.
That's right.
All
yes.
pre-selected.
Yes. Yes.
Dream to drive.
Semi-automatic.
That's right. Well, it's nice chatting to you, Tom, and I hope you have a good trip back.
Right. Thank you very much.
Cheers then. Well, this is the vehicle, and obviously a tribute to the French and the resistance and what they did during the war and during the time they were occupied by Germany. But the interest in this vehicle is something that I've got and had for a long time. It's a Citroen, the Citroen Traction, probably the 1.5 litre front-wheel drive. Very forward-thinking for the Citroen firm in their design of vehicle. A bit heavy to drive because of the front-wheel drive, didn't have power steering in those days. But here we are with a vehicle, left-hand drive look, built in France for the French, and here to pay a tribute today to all those wonderful people in France who resisted the occupation of the Germans. Well, now we got a couple of British motorcycles. Of course, many of the motorcycle firms were producing bikes for our army during the war. This is the Norton 16H, which is 500 side valve, and the next one over is the Matchless 350 overhead valve bike. One of the most popular bikes, really, the Matchless, because later on they were fitted with telescopic forks. This one must be quite an early one to have the girder forks on like that. Used as convoy leaders, dispatch riders, and Sergeant Major used to keep track on the old convoy with the use of a motorbike. Two very notable British firms and their contribution to the war effort. Well, here's another example of the GMC, the big 2.5 ton truck we saw with the steel cab earlier. This is the cab we spoke about with the soft top. This was a more utility pattern and the ones we were more familiar with over in this country. I would say 99% of the vehicles that came to this country had that soft top cab on it. And now, coming post-war, an entirely different vehicle, but a fascinating little vehicle, is Austin's Champ. Austin built the Champ in opposition, I suppose, to the Land Rover. But what an expensive little vehicle it was, not only to build, but to run, because it's got a Series B Rolls-Royce engine in it. This is the B40, meaning it had 4 cylinders. But this particular engine could be manufactured in 4, 6, and 8 cylinders, and all the parts were interchangeable. But a magic little vehicle, this. It had a forward speed gearbox, and like the little Daimler Dingo, just pull a lever, and all those gears would operate in reverse. You could also get a full kit for waterproofing these and drive them through 3 or 4 foot of water. You get your feet wet, but you wouldn't stop your engine. The Austin Champ, a very marvellous little car. What's more famous in our post-war years than the Land Rover, which was really built by Rovers as a result of the success of the American Jeep. They built the first ones on the same wheelbase as the Jeep, 80-inch wheelbase, but put an overhead valve engine in there and a 4-speed gearbox, much more sophisticated than the Jeep. Now, this is something I haven't seen before. This is the Swiss Army Volvo. It's a cross-country vehicle. They also did these in firefighting rig. This particular one was built in Hungary. It's got a 2-litre engine, 4-speed gearbox, and 2 or 4-wheel drive. Now, a couple more Jeeps here, both done up with the British markings. This is very much the British Jeep. All the Jeeps built for the British Army had side lights on them. That's a good marker to go by. And this particular old lorry here is one I love very much. It's the old Austin, very much the civilian style Austin, but built for the British Army. One of Austin's K series, 4-speed gearbox, 6-cylinder overhead valve engine, very similar in construction detail as the popular Bedfords. In fact, Bedford sued Austin's before the war because of the similarity of the two vehicles, and this one went under the name of the Birmingham Bedford, but it was a fine vehicle, and really was a tough old vehicle and a great performer. Well, yet another Austin, this one, the Austin K5. Now, this was a very popular vehicle when they came out of the army for the lime spreader people because it had a tough gearbox and reduction box in there. They really were a well-built wagon. 6-cylinder overhead valve engine, 4-wheel drive. This is the Far East, or Middle East I should say, conversion with a soft top, hence the Arabic numerals on the side. I remember seeing this vehicle in preservation down our end of the country many years ago, and it's nice to see it still going. It was well known in the Army as the Austin Screamer, and if you ever rode in the back of one of these 3-tonners, listening to the transmission whining away, you would well know why. Something for a change now, more like a car, isn't it? These were well known in the Army as a Tilly. Morris, Austin, Hillman made a Tilly, but this one, the standard, was the only 12 horsepower one, and slightly different in as much as it had an alteration from the bonnet back, whereas the other ones used the original car cab on them. They were identical in mechanics to the pre-war cars of that make. The standard one was used a lot by the RAF, but I see this one is in Army camouflage here. And of course we're on to the numbers on the side, an M number for anything of the car size. But here she is, the Flying Standard 12 horsepower Tilly. Well, we're walking past the 1952 McGyrus Deutsch up to one of our favourite little Bedfords, the 15 underweight MW. And this one, like a lot of the military vehicles here we see today, owned by these enthusiasts, have done quite a bit of travelling. This one went to Normandy in 1944 to the D-Day anniversary, and is proudly showing a sticker up there to say that it went to Pegasus Bridge, that famous bridge where the airborne landed. Old vehicle, an old soldier, probably went out there at some time itself. I don't know about the div sign on there. It's one of the armoured divisions with the red and yellow. And here's its bigger sister over here, the 3-ton Bedford, the Bedford OY. And this was, if anyone was in the army during the war, would surely have had some experience with the famous 3-ton Bedford. The 6-cylinder overhead valve engine, 4-speed box, was so popular, not in the army, but earned a lot of popularity in civilian use as well. Some of them coming out in civilian use with the same old army bonnet that we've got here. Now on to yet another Canadian vehicle. This is the Ford V8 1500 weight. This is the old cab, the number 12 cab that was originally used beginning of the war until the Model 13 came out in about 1942. The CMP 1500 weight. Well, I've got here with me now a piece of kit that I've got to show some preference for, being an old artilleryman himself, and I got Kevin Pickett here dressed up as an artilleryman today with the division signs of the Tynan Tees division. Sorry, we're spitting that out pretty well. How long have you had the quad?
About 18 months now.
18 months. Yeah. Lovely old vehicle to drive. You can stand the noise.
Very noisy, yeah.
Yeah, the Morris quad, 4-cylinder. Yes, and he said very hot. 4-wheel drive, designed first of all back in the late 30s, but this is a later version with the squarer body. This is the Mark III with the number 5 body, you told me, Kev. Yeah. Wonderful vehicles. The Morris Commercial made a big contribution to the war effort with their particular vehicles. And on the back we've got the, well, the infamous 12 25-pounder gun, the finest gun ever used by the British Army for many, many years.
Oh, yeah.
And you're looking for a limber to go on the back now, Kevin?
Yeah, well, we've got 2 limbers, but both need reconditioning. So we're going to see if we can get one done to take, so we can take it to France.
It's quite an effort, the journeys you cover with these military vehicles and collections. How many vehicles have you got about now, Kev?
I've got 3.
You've got 3 vehicles.
3
And,
Morrises.
as we said earlier, these are quite fanatics, these people, but it's a darn good job they're about because they keep old vehicles like this for us to see, and it's a bit of British heritage preserved. Thank you, Kevin. Well, we've got a fair old lineup of Jeeps and a lightweight Land Rover there. And next to that, we've got a, very recent Jeep. Far too recent for my knowledge, so I've got Richard here to guide me through that one. It's built by Ford, that's all I know about it, Richard.
Yes, this Jeep is an M151A1. It was commissioned in the late 50s by Ford, but it was also built by Kaiser and Willys. This particular one was built in 1967, and it's taken about 2 years to restore to this condition.
When did it come to this country? With the American forces over here?
No, it actually come from Norway, from the Norwegian.
I see. Quite a lot of military vehicles are coming over from that area now.
Yeah.
And this one?
This is an M38A1, which is actually the predecessor to the 151.
But that is a Willys.
This is the last true Jeep built by Willys for the US Army.
Of course, with overhead valve engine though at this time.
It has overhead and side valve, which is an F-head configuration. It's the higher bonnet from the conventional Second World War Willys.
Yeah.
They had to enlarge it to incorporate the new engine.
What about the lighting? 12 volt on these?
24 volts.
This is the funny thing with the Yanks. They went from 6 right up to 24.
It's basically to cope with the radios.
Yes.
They went to the bigger radios. They had trouble during the war. And so they went to 24 volts for the radios, and then they upped all vehicles to 24 volts.
And I take it this is your own particular vehicle here?
Yeah, this is my own vehicle. I've had it about 2 years now.
Nice and quick and comfortable for a run like this today, no problem?
Yes, it's not too bad at all.
What's it like on fuel?
Depending on how it's tuned, probably 18 to 25, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky. Anyway, we do appreciate the people like yourselves who collect and build these vehicles and keep them rolling for the likes of these people to come around and see. Thanks a lot, Richard.
Thank you very much.
Well, here's something I haven't seen for a long time. The Guards Armoured Div on this Daimler armoured car. We've got the Dingos here today, but very lucky we are to get the Big Brother. These were built, started off about 1939, I think, but this is the 1944 model. Daimler with a 2-pounder gun. And crew of 3, fitted with a big Daimler overhead valve engine, and of course the famous Wilson gearbox, which is the epicyclic pre-selector gearbox with 5 forwards and 5 reverses. Used to see a lot of these about during the war, and it's nice to see one still in preservation. Now, this is coming up in years quite a long way, and still in use, some of these with American forces. This is a real 6x6, not very different to the wartime vehicles, as we can see from the GMC. Very much the same styling. The famous Jimmy 2.5-ton 6x6, the soft cab variety. Well, I'd like to, as many pounds as thousands of these we saw running through our village during the war when we were amid 2 very big American camps. they were great to see, great to listen to. 5-speed gearboxes with a reduction gear there for 2-speed axle and the 6-wheel drive on them. A very versatile lorry, very popular after the war too for a lot of the people who wanted a cross-country vehicle for their own commercial use. Here's a heavy bit of machinery to own privately for preservation. There's about 5 to the gallon. It's the Saracen armoured personnel carrier. A lot of these were used in places like Northern Ireland too. It's got the Rolls-Royce B series engine, that one with the interchangeable bits. This is the B80, meaning it's 8-cylinder engine, and it's 6-wheel drive and an excellent vehicle cross-country and compete with a lot of tanks. Whereas over here, entirely different vehicle, the old Austin Chieftain. Around about 1951, I should think that was, with Austin's own, Albion's own engine in there, and they always call it the Albion oil engine as opposed to the Albion diesel. Albion's motto was sure as the sunrise. You can see the sunrise markings up on there. Always built a very reliable vehicle. And this particular one is a 6-wheeler, 4-wheel driven at the back, but no drive on the front wheels. And you could fit tracks around those back 4 wheels to give them better traction across country. A big heavy machinery body, no doubt on this one. A good, reliable, heavy vehicle, very popular with the Remy regiments. Well, I'm sitting here with Linda and Andrew and young James, our junior Home Guard lad here. And my attention was drawn because of the authentic way they looked. We do get some of the lads who don't really know how to wear the uniform, but I understand that you wore it officially back in the TA. Yeah. But how did you come so interested?
I started collecting uniforms about 9 years ago. It all started when a friend gave me his great aunt's Land Army breeches, and that was the thing. I had this huge pair of Land Army breeches, and I thought, right, I could really start
But I congratulate you, really do look the part with the makeup and everything. It took me back. I thought I'd suddenly gone in a time warp back to the 40s.
Well, I met a chap today. He came up to me and he said, I'd just like to shake your hand now. He said, I was married to an ATS girl for 50 years, and he was an older gentleman, 50 years, and I must say how nice you look. And I was really delighted, and that's what it's all for.
Makes it all worthwhile. It's all to do with nostalgia. And you drove down in a Jeep?
We drove down in a 43 Jeep, yes.
1943 Jeep. She's done up British military marking?
It's in Canadian. We were very fortunate that when we bought this Jeep, we actually had the history with it, really. We found what was the bonnet number, which is the number runs down the side of the bonnet, and when we rubbed down the paintwork, the original
had the original number. It's a shame to take it away.
Well, that's right. So
they're old soldiers in themselves, aren't they?
That's right.
And what about James? I see you got Junior Home Guardian, and you got a gas mask, or is that your sandwiches in there?
Bit of both, I think, isn't it?
It's all sorts. And you're interested in this sort of thing as well?
Yeah, because my parents they dragged me all about the Jeep and everything. And
that's very good. So you've been brainwashed into it, really, haven't you?
Yeah, because I thought, it's fun. So
it's fun. That's what it's all about, is fun. And let's hope all the reference to the war could be fun in future. We don't want to go back to the real thing. But it's lovely to see all this preservation, and I'm really enjoying myself here today. Is nostalgia, having worn the same badge as yourself for a couple of years, the Royal Artillery. Well, thanks. It's been lovely meeting you.
Thank you.
And you keep up the good work, my dear. You really did catch my eye today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I find myself now sitting in a very well-restored, complicated bit of machinery. You're obviously an SAS fan, or how did you come to get this vehicle?
I came across this vehicle at an MOD auction, Ashton Down, last year. It was in a somewhat sorry state when I bought it. It's been restored back to a service condition. About 1,000 hours of work has been put into this vehicle.
What a grand job you've done of it too, Martin. It's obviously belonged to the SAS, the Long Range Desert Patrols, at some time or another.
That's correct. The unit user was 22 SAS Regiment. There were 30 odd of this variant made by a company called Glover Webb. 12 have been written off roughly, and this is the only one to escape so far.
Well, having got all the gear up together, ever fancy joining the SAS?
I don't think I'll be able to cut the mustard, really. certainly some special guys that actually...
when you look around and see the equipment and the type of vehicle, the old Land Rover they use, they really are a race apart and something we got to raise our hat to. But anyway, it's great to have this vehicle restored and belong to the IMPS military vehicle group that you do, and well done. We wish you luck with it.
Thank you very much.